Good evening. It's the July 28th, 2015 meeting of the Sherborn Board of Selectmen. And we'll ask David Williams, our town administrator, to please read the agenda. Let's see if we need any changes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, we'll vote to approve or amend the agenda and add topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance. I'm not aware of any of those events. Then a public comment period of 10 minutes. And then consideration of establishing a community garden. Consideration of transfer station fee schedule. Then consideration of community compact application. And then under routine business, consideration of various appointments, town administrator report, selectmen reports, the meeting calendar review, and consideration of warrant, and then adjourn to executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property as it pertains to the Abbey Road development and the Brush Hill Cell Tower lease. I do have one recommendation that
Don't you dare.
I do have one recommended edit, and that's to take off the Brush Hill Cell Tower lease.
To take that off the agenda, okay. So we have a motion to take the Brush Hill Cell Tower lease item off of our agenda. Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of that amendment?
Don't let the public see you try to give you money.
Guys, all in
money,
favor of the amendment? Okay, thank you. So we're going to remove the Brush Hill Cell Tower lease from the agenda. Okay. All right, and so do we have any public comment?
Yes, Susan.
Oh, good. Susan Tyler. Okay. You read my mind.
Yeah, you said, oh, okay.
This is a topic that was very close to my mind today. Go ahead and raise it so I don't have to. Thank you. Please.
You're going to give her half an hour?
However long she
Oh, you
wants on
said
this.
a minute.
No, 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Go.
Okay, go.
Go. Susan Tyler, 26 Weston Avenue, also a member of the Traffic Safety Committee. I had a phone call from someone who drives one of the school buses this past week, and the school company is already in the process of figuring out the routes and pickups and this and that, and they had a question regarding the Woodland-Goulding Street intersection as to when that was being done. Now, I know since that phone conversation, I had a slight discussion with the police chief, Rick Thompson, and at town meeting, the concept and everything was approved at town meeting. There was a question of the funding for this project. Some of the money will be coming from the Odessa's special permit fees, and my understanding is there has been a discussion with Odessa, and Odessa is willing to prepay, put up ahead of time, funds for their special permits, so the funding should be there, and I'm just wondering what's happening, because we're coming up August 1st, school will be opening soon.
Well, you know, with public comment, we don't answer questions, but David,
I know you don't,
what's going on
so
with
there you go.
Goulding
My
and Woodland?
question is, and can we bring this up at a later date?
I think we're just going to see if we can get a town administrator report on that now.
We met with Odessa, and they were open to making the changes like Sue said, and that has to be negotiated or put in the wording between the planning board and Odessa. And I think the planning board has had one hearing. I think they have to have one more hearing on it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Planning board has
Surprisingly,
to,
the acoustics really aren't all that good in here. I
This mic's
can't
not
hear
doing
what
as
you're
well as
saying.
hers.
planning board has to finalize the wording of the special permit. So we conveyed to planning board what would work for us as far as that funding agreement.
How does the wording in the special permit change, whether they're just prepaying based on what the special permit is?
I would think they would
But
want to
it's-
get some assurance that prepayment counts towards
Yeah.
their payment obligation.
Right.
Well, could I get a word in edgewise?
Absolutely.
We literally cannot do anything until we have a survey done of the site. And until that's done, and then some legal papers are drawn up, because the guy has to allow us to do work on his property, all that legal work, all of which was being delayed because we didn't have the survey. And I think
And all
that
of which
was
he's
the-
offered to do. And so I think we just need to move this along.
We just
Well,
need to have the survey finished.
We've signed the contract with the engineers, and I think it was that AECO?
But to my knowledge, we haven't got that back.
Yeah.
So even if Odessa gave us $1 million, we would still be in exactly the same position because we can't go forward until the survey gets
Correct,
done.
but we've
the
also
paperwork.
already had money for the part, we had enough to start. We could have already done the surveying. So, I mean, it's been since May. There's been plenty of time to already have that done before.
So we did a report. I don't think we can have a discussion, but we did do a report, and I think the direction is pretty clear. We need to get this thing moving. And can we put it on the agenda for discussion at the next meeting? Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for raising that. Okay, no more public comment here. We have Mr. Stone coming in, I guess not until 6:15.
Right.
Okay, do we want to do we have any minutes that we're doing this week? No, we're not.
No, that's the next meeting.
Can we then turn to correcting the annual town meeting date? At the last meeting, we had a mistaken calendar. I think we were looking at the 1994 calendar or something. So we got the days wrong. But the intended dates for the town meeting were Tuesday, April 26th, and continuing to Thursday, April 28th, if necessary. And that was not what we said last week. So Paul has moved those dates. Do we have a second on those dates?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, so correct the record to show that those are the intended dates for the town meeting. And Diane had confirmed that she has arranged for Leland Commons for those 2 nights. Okay. Linquist Commons. There we go. Linquist Commons.
Can we jump back to one thing?
Yeah.
We're not supposed to deliberate on the Woodland Street thing,
Oh, you got.
but I do have something that maybe David can handle.
Yeah.
There's been talk for years that if there's a dangerous situation in the way that buses pick children up, that you can ask the bus company to change the way the route is. And now might be the time to talk to them, because regardless of where we are in the construction, it's not going to happen before the beginning of school. But there's a serious safety concern with the fact that the buses come up Woodland from South Main,
Right.
and pick those kids up that are at just about at the intersection. And I wonder if we, as maybe the
Is
town
that a school
administrator,
committee issue or a town issue?
I don't know. I know that residents have been able to say, "Hey, my kid should not be crossing at this point."
I mean,
and the bus company will usually somehow find a way to do that. And I've urged some of the residents to do that, and it hasn't changed in the past 2 years.
yeah, I mean, we can, they have to be aware of with the number of complaints that were from their local.
They are.
And the complaint from the
While I was on traffic safety, we brought it up several times, and
yeah.
yet still to this day, at least at the end of school, they were still picking kids up, coming in the direction where they have to cross that blind corner.
If I may, this
Yeah,
is
Paul, this is a school committee issue.
this is under the jurisdiction of the school committee. They actually do the contracts with the bus company, and as part of that, they define the routes, the methods, the timing, when school starts. All of that stuff is entrusted to the school committee. We have no say in the matter.
Can we just have, I don't know if it's through Sean or through David or Diane, just have somebody bring it to the attention of somebody on the school committee so they can address that issue?
Yeah, we'll do it in a way that we're giving them a heads up about the work that we're doing, and
Great,
that
good.
they should be aware that there's a safety issue there.
And now, since it's 6:15, we have Mr. Stone, who wants to speak with us concerning consideration of establishing a community garden. This is the first we've heard of this, so it'll be a good introduction to the topic, and thank you for volunteering on this and for coming in to speak to us about it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If you could sit at the table too, that's the only way that's going to work.
Okay. Just give me a second.
It's on,
Yes, it is on.
but
Yeah. Well, we'll give it a shot.
that's on, but I'm not sure I'm on. So. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
What's your password, Rick?
I just changed it. All right. All right, thanks. Again, my name is Rick Stone, and I'm here today to talk about a concept proposal for starting up a community garden in Sherborn. And I think everybody's received this already in your
Yes,
packets?
you
Okay.
did, yes, thank
All
you.
right. Good. So this is an idea that just has been sprouting recently, and so I did a little bit of research to find out what is in the area as far as other towns having community gardens, and I found that most surrounding towns do have a community garden. It's a way to engage its citizens. It's a kind of a fun activity, and it'd be something that that we could do here in Sherborn at no cost to the town. The proposal is to use some of the town-owned land next door in the Caustic property for volunteer organized and managed community organic gardens, which of course would emphasize Sherborn's agricultural roots. It's a way to engage the community from young to old. It could benefit all age groups, especially those that have highly manicured lawns, don't want to have a garden, or others that don't have sunny property, or others that don't have land at all. And so we can emphasize involving people from Woodhaven, for instance. There is a set of rules that everybody would adhere to that want to participate. There'd be a small fee to pay for the cost of tilling the land and for access to water. So it would be, again, no cost to the town. And then a third aspect of this is that people that are away for vacation have excess crops could donate those to a local food pantry as other towns do, such as in Wellesley. There's already a program sponsored by Pilgrim Church that goes directly to a place to turn in Natick. So the initial plans would start out small. We'd have some small lots. We'd have to determine the size, maybe 10 by 10 or 10 by 20, that would get tilled in the spring. With access to water, people could then work the land. And we could solicit local farms for contributions of compost to use on the plots. There's a lot of community garden associations in the area that we can take advantage of their lessons learned, how they have organized. So we wouldn't really necessarily be starting from scratch in that regard. So again, it's a simple proposal with a concept kind of a approval today. We'd move ahead with some kind of an organizing committee to look to get this underway for next year. I also included in the packet some research I did. Holliston has about 30 plots today. Natick at the community organic farm has about 26. They're pretty large plots there. Ashland has 56. Wellesley has, I didn't get a number, but it's a large number. And then in Boston, there's over 150 different active community gardens. And so I found some links of resources that we can use. Specifically, the Trustees of Reservations does a lot of organizing in Boston, and their organization called Boston Natural Areas Network has a lot of resources we could use. So that's the idea, and just wanted to see if you had any questions.
Anybody want to start?
I had a question. My recollection was that Woodhaven and Leland used to have a community garden years ago. Anybody else recall that? I'm thinking back to the days when my kids were at ECDC. I haven't seen that recently. Anybody remember that?
I do.
That plot?
But I don't know who. I think they just did that on their own.
Yeah. I haven't seen it in a number of years. I was just trying to recall when Woodhaven had plots.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I had a question maybe along the same lines in terms of the Caustic property and whether that's the right location. I mean, it's certainly a convenient location, and I guess there's water, although it's the same water that's going to serve the library and the town hall and the police station, so we'd want to make sure it wasn't you know, that there was some consideration to other needs. But did you have a chance, or maybe you would propose that the organizing committee think about whether there might be other places that would be more suitable or equally suitable? I'm also a little concerned about the sun and the ledge on that property from the standpoint of how suitable it is for gardening. I don't know, but it does seem like a lot of it seems pretty shady.
Yeah, we'd have to avoid the shady spots on one half of the property. There is a lot of sun in the lower half of the property.
Okay.
And I know there's other plans, a possibility of a parking lot over there for the library, which, you know, we'd have to coordinate use of that. Where that gets sited, we want, you know, people like to park in the shade, so maybe a parking lot could go in the shady areas. And
yeah, I mean, I don't even know if that's been approved or how far anything's gotten with a parking lot over there, but
parking lot wouldn't be the best use.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I mean, I would see community gardens seems to be an appropriate use of a property in a short term anyway, but I don't know that people would also think that that's the right long-term use for that property, since the town paid $1 million for it. $500,000? Half a million.
400
Whatever.
Something.
It goes up over time. Commissioner Tyler.
Yeah, Susan Tyler, I have a very simple question. Has this been discussed with the Agricultural Commission?
That's another good resource to talk about it with. Is the Agricultural Committee.
There's a meeting coming up on, I believe it's August 10th.
Yeah.
I might point out that some of the best farmland in town is now controlled by the trustees of the reservation.
Which sounds like they've got an interest in these kinds of uses.
Yeah, they might, and there might be a better. I mean, most of that's not right in downtown like the caustic property is, but.
Yeah, one of my concerns about the caustic property is just the water. We've got so many. All it takes is the hose left on to drain a lot of water out.
Yeah.
So that's obviously a really important issue, since we have one well serving police, library, community center as well.
Yes. Well, excuse me if I may. Nancy's got quite a wealth of history on the property, and I was on we left the well there. The well for the property is there, but there's no electric to run, there's no pump. So so there's a lot of issues, and then of course I personally have concerns regarding, we've talked about the parking issues here. We've got the expansion for the library, and that was purchased for expansion of the town campus. And so I think there's other places in town.
Well, this wouldn't be a permanent use in any case. I don't think it's being proposed as a permanent use. It's being proposed as a
go ahead and tell them you're going to take it away.
trial. Well, every fall gardens go away and they come back in the spring. But I mean, I guess I mean I think it's a great presentation. I think it's a great idea. I mean, you know, we can see what the other comments are, and my thought is it would be worthwhile moving forward, but with an open mind to maybe seeing if there might be other places that have, you know, a compelling suitability, maybe better than caustic.
I'm certainly open to it if there's a better location in town that has access to water.
Yeah, is water an essential? That's an essential thing for these community gardens.
Yeah.
And can it be something that's brought to the site, like a tanker truck periodically or something, or it's got to be?
I think that might be difficult to arrange.
I don't know.
Gardens have to be watered every night.
Yeah, Paul.
Well, I'm all in favor of this idea for a variety of reasons. First, many communities do this, and those that don't basically are lacking a champion. But here we have a champion who's willing to put in some time and organize this. From a what's the best location point of view, I kind of like the caustic property because we want to service or provide opportunities to people who don't have much land of their own. And in Sherborn, there are many people who have lots of land where they could do this on their own property. But we do have the Woodhaven facility, we do have Leland Farms, and then we're going to have Abbey Roads going quite near here, within walking distance. And that to me makes it work in a variety of ways. I mean, there may be other people in different parts of town that might participate in this, but the fact that you'd have a group of people who are relatively close by who can walk to this site, I think makes a huge difference. The third thing is that legally, because we don't have a town meeting vote allowing us to lease the property, and you need a town meeting vote to lease property, this would have to be done under a license agreement, and a license agreement is terminable at any time. So if you start this thing out and suddenly the library construction needs to run a piece of machinery through the garden, it can happen because this is only a license. It's not a fixed interest in any real estate. That's not what, of course, the organizers want to hear. But just from a legal point of view, it's not a permanent thing on the site because it doesn't have the legal foundation for that to be permanent, at least for the time being. So the idea is, why not try it? Why not see how it goes? And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. We don't have to go forward with it. If it does work, then it's a good use for a site that's not otherwise being actively used. So why not? Just another legal point. It's best that the town not run this itself, because we haven't set up like a revolving account, so if money goes in, we'd have to have a town meeting vote to appropriate it out and all that kind of stuff. So your organizing committee should really be like a non-profit organization board with members and so on, like Sherborn Community Gardens, non-profit corporation, and so that organization would actually collect the dues and pay out the expenses, some of which would be to the town, A, for the license agreement to use the land, and B, to reimburse for water or whatever other expenses that might go with it. So there's a few legal tweaks that would need to be done to make it work. The fact that I think bottom line, the fact that we have somebody who's willing to sponsor this thing and go forward with it and try and make it put together, try to make it work. The fact that we have land that's not being used, and the fact that it can be set up so the town doesn't encumber the project with all the public agency requirements, to me says this should be a go at this point.
Anybody else? Any comments? Anybody want to make a motion on, Nancy Hess has a comment. We'll hear. This is an open discussion.
I have just a couple of things. Of course, I support feeding a place.
Nancy, you know, you're going to be hard to hear for anybody. Do you mind if you speak into a mic?
Sure.
Please.
Hi, Nancy Hess. Nancy Hess, 64 South Main Street, also former chairman of the committees that have been involved next door. And I just have a couple of issues. I support helping the place to turn and providing space for people who don't have another place to garden. I'm not sure that that's Sherborn, but what I would like to have some sort of a agreement that a shovel won't go into the ground until everything is in place and you have a commitment that people are going to take care of it, because a lot of volunteer time as well as town resources went into getting that property in the condition that it's in now, and I would hate to see it dug up and then nothing happen with it. And I do have a concern about the water issue because most of these towns, all of the towns that are mentioned in the report have town water, which is quite different than what we have here. So, and it's a long way from where I would hope that you would be positioning these gardens to where there's a water resource. And as has been mentioned, a hose left on could do serious damage because this one well does feed all of the public buildings here. So I would just like that kept in mind, and I'd like to see how some of those things would be addressed before anybody puts a shovel into the ground.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I got,
Yeah,
since we're
sure.
talking about water, this is someone on this topic, but it's opening up the bigger conversation about that property and water. If there's a well over there, we should, outside of this, investigate whether that well's any good anyway in the event that this one goes bad. And if it's within the 250-foot protection zone of this well. Because there is a hand-dug well that I don't think we ever grout filled, and we should. That is within 250 feet of the
I thought the one that was left there was a pretty deep well, though. But
no, but there's a hand-dug well that's not covered. It used to have a well house on it. Two of them. And I think one of them is well within the 250-foot radius of the protection.
We filled the hand-dug well with the slurry or whatever you call it. We capped the main well because when the well company came in to decommission it, and we had originally planned on filling that as well, they said, this is a beautiful well. This will cost you a small fortune to dig this again if ever you want to put water over here. And they're the ones that suggested that we cap it rather than fill it with the cement or whatever it is they put in there. And there was a lot of discussion at the time among the board as to whether we would go that route. So you can see the pipe that comes up from that well, and at the time it was a very good well. The Board of Health agent was concerned about having an opening to the aquifer that wasn't monitored all the time, but and it's been a few years, of course, since we capped that. But my understanding is that's an excellent well. But we did pull all of the pump and pipes and electrical stuff from that, so it would need attention to get. I don't know whether you can hand pump it, but you would certainly need attention to reactivate that. But that was the one that fed the house, and it was drinking water. So
I don't think for a trial run we need to activate the well, Sean. I think we could, let's see how things go. That sounds, to activate the well probably would involve some money.
Definitely.
Why do it now?
I think his point was just separate from this proposal. We ought to figure out what's going on with that well and whether it's a suitable well as a backup supply if needed for the town hall.
Well, I think that was the intent.
Yeah.
Back when we were purchasing the property as one of the...
Yeah, so I think Sean's just talking about doing some of the contingency planning on that. So what's the will of the board in terms of the proposal here, which I guess Mr. Stone's looking for kind of a consensus of the selectmen as to whether it's worth his time to pursue this or whether we think it's worth his time to pursue it?
I would say, yeah. I'd make a motion to... I'm trying to see where the motion is the town administrator wrote.
I didn't write one.
Didn't write one. So I move that we give preliminary approval to him to go forward and organize this committee and flesh out some of the details and proceed. But I have the sense that people want to see the final plan for a final sign-off before shovel goes in the ground.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, and I don't, if this is not a town committee, I mean, you've suggested that it be a private endeavor rather than a town committee for a whole lot of good reasons that you explained. I'm not sure he needs our consent or
It's going to need our consent to allowing him to use the land.
Well, that's where I was getting to, which is, I think the idea of a consensus of whether we would support the use of that land, I guess, for me, it would be, I'm not opposed irretrievably to using that land, but I'd also want to know that there wasn't a better place or a place that's less encumbered than that piece of land. And I think there might be either privately owned or publicly owned pieces of land that you might consider, and I don't know, I don't know what they are, but and maybe you've looked at it, maybe you're telling me this is the only one, but if not, I think that's a good, early task for your committee. You've got a great outline of all the things that the committee would need to do, but that to me would be something I would want to see before I said, yeah, the caustic property is the right place to do that. I'd want to at least be able to assure myself and anybody else who's interested that that was a decision based on an understanding of what else is out there.
Particularly if this lines up with what the trustees is doing with the property they've got in town. Certainly worth. I love the concept. I just wouldn't limit the search to the caustic property. I think, Sean, you made a great point about there may be other alternatives.
Right, and I don't know that there is. Every beautiful piece of land I can think of that they own is certainly not within walking distance of here, and I see the value in having it there. I could see the value of having it on Woodhaven property, but they don't have too much sun over there.
Yeah, although and I don't know if the Natick Community Gardens, for example, who uses that, but that's not particularly convenient to anything.
True.
Either. It's in South Natick on Route 16, and anybody who gets there presumably drives there unless they live right in that neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah, I think the factors that Paul, you were mentioning are important ones, that it be centrally accessed to people in town, many people could walk to, and that it has water. And if there were a farm available, that might be great. It might be a better place to actually grow the vegetables, but might not be accessible too.
Or have water.
Yeah.
I just don't see the Dowses signing over their property to use as a community.
Frank wants to make his property available. No.
Yours, Paul.
Frank, you got a thought on this?
I'm going to offer Paul's property.
You were, okay.
He already did.
Okay.
Sherborn Rural Land Foundation, has substantial land set aside here in town. Some of it is being used for agricultural purposes. Some of it farming.
So Frank, I don't know if you would mind if you're going to talk, but I can summarize what Frank said, which is that Sherborn Rural Land has substantial land holdings, including some that are used for agricultural purposes, including part of Silverwood Farm. And maybe it's worth a conversation. I know, Frank, you're involved with that organization, and there are others. But, maybe a follow-up discussion on that too, and maybe there's some that are close to the center of town that are suitable. I don't know.
I don't know. We can play and talk with them.
Yeah.
Well, we need to find out whether Woodhaven, because I recall in the past, gardens over at Woodhaven, so whether that can be resurrected, and certainly there used to be gardens on the outside of Leland Farms also. So.
Okay. And I guess the other thing, and it's kind of a good idealistic vision that people would walk from wherever they live near the center of town to do their community garden, and maybe if there was a tool building or something over there, they would do that. But I suspect that a number of people would still get in their car or get in somebody's car and drive over there, even if it's only a couple hundred yards, because they would want to carry things, they'd want to carry produce back, they'd want to deliver it from there to wherever they were going. And so I'm not sure that for the way I'm thinking of it, at least, Rick, I'm not sure that the transportation or the central issue needs to drive this proposal, but it's your proposal, so I understand you see it differently.
So let me just emphasize that last piece. The way things get done in Sherborn is that you have a champion who's willing to put in the work. And to have that person come here with an idea and then tell them, well, why don't you do 10 or 15 times the amount of work you've already done? Why don't you check out all these things? Why don't you do all these things? I'm afraid that sends a message that isn't as welcoming as I think we should be. That this is Rick's town, it is all of our town, and if he's willing to put the time and energy in to doing something and he has an idea, that should be encouraged. No idea is going to be perfect.
Yeah,
I'm afraid he's gonna throw up his hands and say, well, you know, I don't want to spend the next year wandering around looking at different properties and trying to deal with all these different people in town.
If his idea, though, was to use your property, Paul, would you feel the same way? I mean, he's suggested using a town-owned property. He's come to us for consensus. I don't think anybody's trying to discourage the idea. But I do think we have an obligation to consider whether that's the right use of that property, and we all have different ideas on it. I understand you think it is the right use, or you can be convinced. I can be convinced also, but I'd like a little more information. I don't think that's unfair. I hope Rick doesn't take it as discouraging. It's not intended to be discouraging. I thought you did a great proposal, and the schedule was very impressive, and you've done a lot of research, and you know, I want to see you do this. I do. I didn't hear anything different from Chuck or Sean either.
No, and I respect what Paul's saying, but I think 2 phone calls would, it may sound discouraging, but one's sitting here, and if you called George Fisk, you'd have an answer on the trustees.
Trustees, yeah.
Yeah, and the trustees is actively involved in a lot of outreach efforts.
And so it's definitely not
certainly with the phone call.
So George, and what was the other name?
George Fisk.
Yeah,
but
or Frank Jenkins.
Oh, Frank Jenkins. Okay.
Or Susan Tyler.
Well, the Agricultural Commission.
Right.
You know,
And that's not to discourage. That's more to assist and
resources.
Within a couple of phone calls, you'll find out if there is another piece of land that none of us are thinking of that might be perfect.
Okay. I can make those calls.
Call George Fisk first.
All right.
All right, great. Thank you for coming in. Thanks for doing this. I mean, and to echo Paul, I mean, to have somebody come in with this much groundwork and with a new idea is really impressive. And thank you. It's a great thing to do.
My pleasure.
Okay, and we have transfer station fee schedule.
If you have your phone number, I've got a contact of the trustees. I would love to pass on your.
Okay. Sure, it's 653-1829.
Great, thanks.
Great. It's a good year. Andrew Jackson, I think, was president.
Way before my time.
Okay. Hey, so Carol Rubenstein's here with the discussion of the transfer station fee schedule. Thank you for coming in. And I don't know how these were generated, but why don't you explain what we're looking at here?
Hi, everybody. The Recycling Committee has been discussing rules and regulations for the transfer station, and within those rules and regulations, we have been discussing the schedule of fees that are charged for various items. Some fees we want to change based on the fact that we're paying more than we're charging for them right now, and some fees we want to change based on the fact that we think change in the fees would be more fair. So the fee schedule that I distributed to the Board of Selectmen by email is the one that we are recommending to you. Do you want me to read everything, or do you want me to read what's changed?
Yeah.
Well, you could summarize what's changed. I don't know if we're going to vote on this tonight or just discuss it, but it would be helpful to have.
The part that I didn't understand was what was changing. So I try to go through, I try to compare what you said was 2009 with what was
Right,
the new one, and I didn't see any differences.
Oh, well, they are different. For TVs, we are discriminating between heavy TVs and light TVs. So heavy TVs will be $20. We had been charging $10 for all TVs. We are saying that we would like to charge $20 for heavy TVs and $10 for light TVs. So that's an increase in the heavy TVs.
Is that because they charge us $20?
By weight. They charge by weight.
And what's the cutoff between 20 and 10, what's heavy and
What do we
light?
define as heavy?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
When you're picking it up and you say, God, this is heavy.
That's a very good objective test.
You can pick something up and say it's heavy. I'll pick something up and say it's not heavy.
There has to be a weight, and the weight should be based on what you're being charged. So if your vendor is charging you more for something,
They're charging us per pound. So
you have to pick a pound.
Do we even have scales over there?
No.
well, I'll have to go back to the recycling committee or the transfer station staff and say, how do you define heavy? How many pounds is a heavy TV?
If you don't have a scale, you could do it by size, by measurement.
Well,
because typically
If you charge
things that are
we don't want to do it by size because some large TVs are actually very light. So we don't want to do it by size.
then you're going to have to do it by weight.
Right, we want to do it by weight.
Okay.
But we will not have a scale there to weigh it in order to say to a resident, this TV is heavy enough to incur a $20 charge. We're not going to weigh every TV.
You know what would solve this?
Getting somebody to throw a scale away and
Charge
then
it.
stand
Charge everyone $20.
$20 for every
No, you
TV.
got to calibrate the scale if you're
Right.
using it for tender.
No, I think that's right.
You
Just
can't do that.
just charge a flat $20.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
Which just shot me in the foot. I got 3 TVs at home. I got
Good.
Well, get
Throw-
them in
throw all
now
the
before.
space.
Yeah, get them in now before.
Well, I'm not going to vote on this.
I think you have to recuse yourself on this.
Okay.
You're not going to vote on this?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily be able to vote tonight. I don't know. It depends on how much we get through and whether we still have open questions. But
Okay.
that was one question and one suggestion.
Okay, I would be fine if you wanted to charge $20 for all TVs.
Okay. All right. Next is house.
The next change is that we are charging a difference between dorm-size refrigerators and regular stand-up refrigerators. So we have been charging $20 for all refrigerators. We're now going to say a dorm-size refrigerator is $10.
Is that because they charge by weight on those also?
No, we just think, well, yes, they do charge by weight, but and we also think it's unfair to charge the same price for a dorm-size refrigerator as a regular refrigerator. In this case, refrigerators are charged by the evacuation of the Freon. So,
Okay.
But my concern about that is that in 2009 we charged $20 for refrigerators. And here we are, 7 years later, 6 years later, and everywhere else in the world the price goes up 2% a year, 3% a year. And here we are, we're actually reducing the price for some amount of refrigerators. And the whole point of updating the charges, I mean, $10, $20, these things are a $3 charge. If these charges were double or triple, then I think there would be something I'd be concerned with. But these are this is basically the same.
I agree. Are we losing money on this stuff?
no,
Are we making money?
yes,
Right. Currently we are?
yes.
But Carol, including the salaries of the folks who run the place and all that?
No, I'm just talking about fees coming in, covering the cost of collecting those items.
All right, so we're not really recovering the cost of the service. We're just recovering our out-of-pocket costs of disposal.
By
Right.
law, and Paul, you can correct me, if you're only supposed to be recouping so much on your expense when you're doing the fees, but you can't set the fees to recoup your whole cost on like solid waste.
I wouldn't.
That's not-
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Think we could, but I
No,
do
but
think
that's
we
what-
can. I do
that's what-
think we can defray. There's a substantial amount of time, I assume, that people take who work there to handle these and to arrange for their disposal and whatever else they do, and we should be able to defray some of that or all of that aspect of the cost through that program. I mean, I had the same observation Paul had, although I also understand there's the charges are based differently, maybe it makes sense to distinguish in some way.
I mean,
What if we were increasing? If we've been charging $20 for all refrigerators, it would make sense, as Sean had said before, to increase the price for the big refrigerators and keep the dorm-sized ones at where they are now. But cutting the fee in half for a series of items that it just doesn't make. I mean, it's so counter to what every other community is doing. I'm also mindful that long term, we've had the great benefit of a wonderful recycling committee and a wonderful efforts by you. But at some point, you're going to retire, and at some point, we're going to need to hire somebody.
It's looming.
And we're going to need to hire somebody.
Getting closer tonight, isn't it?
Keep Andrew.
So at some point, we're going to have to be spending much more there than we're spending now, and so I don't see cutting the fees.
You know, you do have a finance director, accountant now. Did Irene see these?
No.
Or did you guys do any sort of projection based on the past intake or something?
No.
You know, maybe she could put something together like that to just to verify that the recycling part of the whole budget is, so we could know what percentage is being offset by these things. Or,
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great start. I'd like to know that. I'd also like to know how these compare to what surrounding towns are getting for the same, you know, or are charging for the same type of disposal. And then I had a question, Carol. I noticed you've added some things, which is great. It looks like mattresses, because I know it costs us money to dispose of mattress, carpet. That doesn't appear on this old list.
Right.
But then there are some things that are taken off, like waste oil and car batteries and white goods, which are on here, and it says no charge. Are we actually not spending anything to dispose of those items? I don't know why there was a no charge in 2009, and I guess I'm wondering if there should be a charge now on those items if we're actually paying to. I can't imagine you can just dispose of waste oil.
Actually, we're making a little money on waste
money on
oil.
that.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
We are.
Right.
White
Make
goods,
money on car batteries,
white
right?
goods we're making money on. It goes into the scrap metal pile.
Okay.
Car batteries is going into the scrap metal pile.
What? No. You can't put lead acid car batteries in a scrap metal pile.
Yes, I know we can't, but they are.
but that's where they go.
We're making money on car batteries.
Yes, we
gotta
are.
be.
Okay, so they resell those
And fluorescent tubes, by law, we have to take them.
Yes,
for free.
but no, not well. We
Those
do,
mercury-
we don't
the Mercury
charge.
Recovery Act.
We don't charge for them, and we do get reimbursed by Wheelabrator.
Okay. All right, so that explains those then.
One other item went down. The dehumidifiers went down from $20 to $10 on this new list.
I can't remember.
But they did. They're the same size as a window air conditioner, though, so they should cost us.
For air conditioners, $20. For dehumidifiers, $10.
But if you put
I don't remember why. I don't remember.
Yeah. I think it's too complicated.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't know if we purposely changed that or we overlooked that and it was a typo.
I don't know. Okay, so it sounds like we've got some follow-up on these that Irene will do, and Diane or David will research some surrounding.
I don't think we're asking the committee to spend 100 hours on this.
Absolutely not.
No.
No, I think we're close. It looks like we're, you know, these are incremental changes. I bet we're close.
Well, I think my sense is that the prices are way too low. Like $5 for carpets that are 8 by 10 or smaller. I mean, $5. Either you don't charge for it or you charge something meaningful. But $5.
Well,
the flip side of that is if you lived at the end of Rockwood Street,
you have carbon.
You find the stuff at the end of your driveway when it becomes too expensive.
that's right. We don't want to charge so much that people will dispose of it
Because CM&D doesn't get charged,
at midnight
but they pick it up
on some road,
But that's a statewide problem with every community
well,
faces.
we don't want to make it worse.
That's an enforcement issue.
See, on that item, I would personally have a zero charge for whatever your smallest category is, so that people don't feel like they've got to pay $5 to throw their, tiny little carpet
What?
away.
Yeah, I think
Instead of dumping it.
I think it has more to do with Natick than anything.
Yeah.
Because the hours at Natick isn't conducive to people throwing stuff away all the time, so they just bring it to Sherborn and throw it on the way to our dump. So, and CM&D picks it up on Monday morning.
We analyzed the cost for mattresses and carpet,
Okay.
and we're covering our collection costs.
Okay.
So we're happy with the prices that we're charging.
And I always have had a long-term issue about cash being handled down there. Have we got a cash management system in place at the transfer station?
It should be best answered by Irene next time she's in, but yeah, we have looked at that, and we've tried to do some sort of reconciliation between what's turned in and what the volumes that actually go out. I don't know if Carol
A list is kept when something is taken in, and who brings it in, what the charge is, and the money is counted at the end of the day, and it's turned in on a regular basis, and it's reconciled. And there are times when somebody will put a TV in the electronics shed and drive away. It happens.
But the point I'm trying to make is that when you're handling cash, the history of Massachusetts, and in fact, maybe the world, is that when people are handling cash, cash tends to go missing. And this isn't anything about our particular facility, but are we handling cash there?
Yes, we are. Cash and checks. No credit cards.
So
if you want to go to a credit card system, I actually discussed this with some other recycling coordinators at a meeting. It's possible that we could investigate the Apple Pay system. But I don't know if Apple Pay works with other than Apple phones.
I don't think so.
If you can use an Android phone to pay via Apple Pay.
Oh, they have one that goes on
Maybe
Android.
Google Pay or something.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say there are apps for Androids that do the same thing, but
But I mean, I'm not sure that's convenient for everybody. But the point is to get the cash out of the remote location. And
Right, and so the point is that as part of my reaction to this proposal, I'd like to see it run by our finance director for several subjects. One is, should we be using numbers that fully allocate the cost of the transfer station rather than just the amount paid to a vendor? And secondly, do we have an effective means to make sure that every dollar that's paid is safe to get to the treasury of the town?
And we have our collector here, who I know has been investigating ways to collect from different departments. And you and I in the past, Nancy, have talked about voucher systems and things like that. But maybe transfer station is a place to experiment with a way to do that, so you don't have to have money in the in the exchange at the transfer station, require people to get a voucher or something. I don't know. I know that's work for you, and I know you're in the middle of investigating a lot of different programs and what other places are doing, but that's something to bear in mind, I guess.
If you wanted to force everyone to pay online, they could get a receipt by paying Unibank, but you would have to have a way of letting people know what they would need to go to the transfer station with.
So they'd get online and they would pay Unibank with a credit card, and they'd print a receipt?
They pay with an ACH, an electronic check.
An electronic check, and then they'd get some receipt?
And a receipt would come off, and they would...
And bring that to, and that's how some places do these things.
how much money are we talking about annually, just ballpark? How much money is collected from these fees?
I can't even guess.
Just ballpark.
It might be $25,000.
Okay, so it's a chunk of money. Yeah. Thanks.
Susan Tyler, in the past when I've gone to get a burn permit at the police station, law-abiding people, I hope, we residents cannot give them cash. We have to give them a check made payable to the town of Sherborn. So as far as the recycling center, and if I have an air conditioner that just crapped out yesterday and I go out and buy a new one, when I go to the recycle center, can I just write a check with that policy that no cash, checks only? Because otherwise I'm going to have that old AC in the back of my truck, pull into the transfer station, be told, oh, sorry, you need to go home, pay it online, get a voucher, then come back. What's wrong with just a check made payable to the town of Sherborn?
But this
Like
is why
burn permits.
this is why I'm asking that the finance director, who's got expertise in this stuff, figure this out, and working with the tax collector.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, so this is my third time around on this discussion since I've been on this board, and every year we've had the exact same discussion about getting cash out of the system, whether it's a check program or anything else. I don't know why nothing has happened in 3 years. Let's just get the cash out of the system.
That's why I keep asking Diane, I said, are you sure cash is turned over? Because each year, I believe that the agreement was that it's checks only, and the checks get turned over. I would have to look at the turnovers to see exactly how much of the total is
we
being
should just
turned
make
over.
clear that there should be a policy of not taking any cash. And if somebody pulls in, they don't have their checkbook, then they've got to go home and get a check.
That's happened at the police station. I forgot, oh my goodness, I can't give the police cash, so I turn around and go and get a check. But they will only take.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
That's been a policy for a number of years.
Well, then I need a check.
And I think it's not legal to use cash. You have to
No,
take cash.
that's not
what
true.
I think I was told.
That's not true.
It is legal tender, but we can designate the point of legal tender. So we can say, if you want to pay cash, you can pay cash. You have to go to see the tax collector Monday through Thursday. But if you want to pay by a check, you can pay at any time that you happen to be at the transfer station. We can pick when. So yes, you can't refuse to take legal tender of the United States, but we can say where we will take it.
Okay.
Can I just ask that we look at maybe using credit cards, because it is 2015. I, for one, have written an awful lot of checks to the town of Sherborn, and if I write another one, I'm not gonna. Writing checks in the middle of the dump, I mean, there's I'd rather walk into their little booth there, swipe a credit card. I don't even carry a checkbook with me. It's 2015. But I never leave home without. And I've gone in there multiple times and gone, oh, I don't have 20 bucks. I thought it was 10. I have to run and get cash. I don't like bringing cash there either, but I don't go there without a credit card.
Okay. Don't leave
We
home
should
without
look
it.
at that. That's all.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, so it sounds like we've kind of got a good discussion going and some direction, and David will bring this back to a later meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Carol.
Thanks, Carol.
Thanks for all the work on this. Consideration of community compact application, and David, why don't you explain to us? I know we had an early discussion on this a couple months ago. You've made some progress, so what's going on?
Yep. I'll read a little bit. The community compact is a voluntary mutual agreement entered into between the Baker-Polito administration and individual cities and towns. In a community compact, a community will agree to implement at least one best practice that we can select from a variety of different areas. The areas chosen are reviewed by between the Commonwealth and the municipality to ensure that the best practice chosen is unique to the municipality and reflect areas of improvement. Once approved, the written agreement will be generated and signed by the municipality and the Commonwealth. So the benefits to what we could see as entering into a compact is you could get extra points on certain grant calculations that could put you above some other towns when you're applying for money. Priority participation in relevant incentives. they haven't really defined what exactly that would be. And increased commitment to cooperation between town and the Commonwealth.
Technical assistance. At one of the meetings I have attended a number with Sean Cronin, who administers the program, and with Lieutenant Governor Polito. And one of the things they're trying to set up is provide technical assistance. That is, the state's planning to hire people with technical skills. And if you sign these compacts, you get priority
in their service.
Priority access to the people that they hire. I mean, you'll be competing against other compact and non-compact communities, but if you sign a compact, you can get essentially the state to pay for the technical assistance that you need to help set up a program.
Yeah, it includes, there was a presentation at the DOR, the Department of Revenue training session for new officials. There was an extensive presentation on this, and to me, this is almost a no-brainer. They compile best practices. It's incredibly wide-ranging. We were talking about programs and identifying roads that are most in need of repair. I believe that's one of the best practice areas.
Yes, it's
that's what started the whole conversation.
Yeah, so I think this is an easy decision.
It's an easy decision, but the hard part of the decision is what are the
right
things. So if I could, because they've been encouraging me to encourage Sherborn to be a compact community, the thing that I would suggest as needed by the town is under the financial piece where we work on what is generically called capital planning, which is on page 2-3 of their list of best practices. And under capital planning, two subsets of capital planning. The first is a pavement management program, which is a form of capital planning. And Sean Cronin, not Sean Killeen, but Sean Cronin, who administers this program, says that pavement management programs would qualify as a capital planning tool. I thought the community would benefit from that based on our last discussion with Ed Wagner. But a second capital planning tool, one that I've been talking about for a couple of years now, is a building plan by which municipal buildings would be evaluated for annual capital improvements, and to have a program like the schools have been doing for school buildings, so that each year we go to town meeting with what's needed for capital improvements for our buildings as a whole. And to get to that, you need to have a plan that would outline like a 20-year program, what needs to be done over 20 years, divide that into here's what we do year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and each year we go to the voters with a specific request, like, again, using the model that we have for the Sherborn schools and the regional schools. So those are the two areas that I know from my discussions would be favorably received by state officials, and I think are both needed by the town, or the town could greatly benefit by it.
I distributed these to Irene, and I don't have her response back, but I'm sure she would support you in those two areas. But we also have advisory weighing in on capital committee, and the finance director. So I was looking at the the pavement improvement program and that kind of thing under infrastructure, but you're saying that they believed it should be under capital planning.
But that's the way Mr. Cronin, I don't want to keep calling him Sean. Mr. Cronin had labeled it, but I don't think they care.
Okay.
They're the ones that brought it up. I didn't ask them, but they said, you know, pavement management programs are things that they're trying to encourage.
So David, is there a reason we don't have responses from all the different department heads?
Just the timing. I mean, not every, you wouldn't get something from every department, and I only sent it out to the select ones that I specified in here, which was finance, CM&D, police, fire, planning, conservation, and water commission. So the ones I didn't receive back from were
fire, Concom, and finance.
Finance and Concom, but we have Concom's items were pretty obvious. But
yep.
Did you get any input from planning board?
Yes, Gino.
Yes, Gino.
Just via Gino.
Yeah. And he provided input on two areas. One was the energy and environment, and the other was housing and economic development. So what, based on their responses, what I come up with was looking at housing, infrastructure, and what's the other one?
What are you talking about?
The transportation for sharing best practices. Those are the three areas that I was thinking of including in the compact. But there's no reason why you can't include a fourth area of capital planning. It also doesn't mean that you can't enter into another compact later for another item as you flesh it out.
Is that true? Because there was something that said in this material you sent us, it said something about once you into a compact, your town doesn't appear in the drop-down menu anymore. It implied that you had one shot at this, so that's what I wanted to.
I thought there was something that
yeah,
said,
I did see that somewhere.
Yeah, it's in that. The
background.
The frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So David, I mean, I would want to know for sure that you can get a second bite at the apple because it's not clear to me based on that.
To find out whether you can amend your compact or add.
Did we get
Do
input
another one.
from other elected boards, the assessors, town accountant, tax collector? Did you get input from them on which of these areas might be of interest?
No, because I didn't blow this up into a huge project because I knew what kicked it off specifically was this transportation thing with the roads. So I knew that was like one big area, and looking at the other compacts that the other communities had done, it seemed to be limited to 2 or 3. Even in the city of Worcester, it was 3 or 4 items. So I didn't want to send it out to everybody and everybody come back saying that we wanted this in the compact. And now I've got this document with 14 or 15 different compacts we're entering into.
Well, let's figure out what kind of shot we have, if it's a one-time deal or not. But I hear what you're saying on that, David. So you're recommending sharing best practices under transportation, and then you're recommending the housing and economic development best practice of housing, and the housing and economic development best practice of infrastructure. And I guess the question is, for housing, you're contemplating we would have the town prepare a community-supported housing plan, and that's consistent with Gino's recommendation that housing could be a focus. And Gino, our planner, also believes that infrastructure could be a good focus because it could get us assistance with planning and implementing water and sewer service in the town center, following up on the work that Roger Demler and the Town Center Water Options Committee is doing. And then Paul has recommended a couple of good items of pavement management and municipal building capital planning, capital management programs. So that's 5. And I guess the question is there any, A, does anybody else have anything else they would add to that list? And B, should we be pursuing 5, 4, 3, 2? Paul's saying 3, I think, or else he's making an obscene gesture at me, one or the other.
Can we take a vote on that?
I'm not sure what that obscene gesture means.
Neither did I. I wasn't sure either.
This is new.
No, I think you're limited to 3, or the intent was,
3, okay.
at least I heard the guy say that they were expecting 2 to 3.
Okay.
And the reason why I mentioned the financial ones is that I know they have the technical assistance available to help us on that. Some of these others, I'm not sure that they have yet the technical assistance. That doesn't mean that they won't have it in place at some point.
I think we would make a real statement for the town by proposing that we follow up on the best practices for housing, because we have an issue in this town with our affordable housing number and with issues concerning tensions over development and not having a housing plan, and it keeps coming up. And it's something that is controversial, but this would at least be a way to get some state support for moving forward on that topic. It may not reach any decision, but and with the planner recommending it, I would be inclined to say that's a good one to include.
If you wanted to, I mean, just with looking at housing, you naturally have to pull in looking at the infrastructure. So you wouldn't necessarily have to.
I can't hear.
You wouldn't necessarily have.
Yeah, David, I think it's that mic or it's you.
You wouldn't necessarily have to pull in, a separate compact item for infrastructure if you're looking at housing and economic development, because you're naturally going to look at infrastructure anyway.
So that's housing.
Yeah,
okay.
and I think he's saying that that's a good one to do.
Yeah, and
That's what
then
I'm saying.
I'm wondering if Paul's pavement management program fits in with the sharing best practices transportation item that you've recommended, David. Is there a way to fit those together, or does that need to be under the economic and financial planning item?
Well, I think the heading would be capital planning, and Paul was thinking that we would 2 subsections under that would be building management and pavement management.
So that just counts as one item. Is that what you're saying? Okay, and then that would give us the third one as this transportation best practices.
Yeah, there's more than just management, pavement management under the best practices.
But he's got that under capital already.
Yeah, so maybe capital planning under the financial, housing under housing and economic development, and best practices under transportation and citizen safety.
I guess the question that you raised regarding how broad we should be would help me understand if we should, because Paul kind of doubled up on a couple of capital things, but do we stop at that? Because right between buildings and roads are the trucks that we own. We own a truck fleet, which we definitely should be.
That was in the original discussion. I think when I spoke to Ed, we were thinking that this fleet management part would be part of best practices, but it can go in the capital
and it might
just
be.
as easily.
And again, I don't want to say we should keep broadening this to the point where our staff spends a year trying to fill this out.
No, I think,
and we get kicked out because it's too broad.
I think you just mentioned it under there.
That's the part that I'm worried about. If you look at what some of the other compact say, they're very broad, very general, and I would worry, how do they actually accomplish it? What is the deliverable? What are the milestones? And at some point, if you're not demonstrating good progress on these best practices, there are consequences. So I was trying to pick something that would politically put us ahead of other communities by actually having us achieve something, get it done, and then we could go and say, look, we're the only community in the Commonwealth that actually set some goals and accomplished them. And now that we've accomplished them, we're ready for a new compact that would take us in new directions.
And I'd be in favor of that, because it's easy to just grab at everything that we want to improve all at once and accomplish nothing.
Well, the program is you enter into a compact, you enter into an agreement with the Commonwealth to implement the recommended best practices.
Yeah, and it might be best to just get it done.
Well, so that argues for limiting the scope to make sure that it's something you can accomplish.
Right, because it still falls back on our resources, which are pretty limited at best.
All right, so what's the scope then?
Well, when I wanted to know, but Paul, you said there were consequences. What? I didn't see any consequences other than embarrassment that you didn't finish.
Well, that's one.
Is there something else?
This is a new program. The administration thought of it as a way of solidifying its relationship with the cities and towns. And there's a lot of fanfare that goes with signing these compacts. But if you look at the compacts, there was a question that I asked internally in the administration. So you have, like here's the town of Drake, I'll just pick one. Partner with private sector, nonprofits, and public sector organizations in order to advance the housing and economic development vision and goals of the community, as evidenced by the successful completion of a private, public, nonprofit project. So you have this.
They're going to accomplish nothing.
Right.
There's no goal
unless
there.
they have a specific project.
Which is 3/4 of the way done already.
Right. Right. So it's either one or the other. But if they just
nothing there.
Give us technical assistance to create public-private partnerships.
Right.
So they're going to have, the state will, send someone here from Department of Revenue talking about, here's what a nonprofit is, here's what a private organization is, here's what a public organization is, and you have a nice chat. But 2 years later, someone's going to say, okay, what have you built on the ground?
We'd do better to talk to the folks at the library about how to set up a
but I mean, part of this, I think, is also to get your goals aligned and have the state support those goals. And if we've got a planner who has recommended housing. We know we've got an issue with housing.
Yes, but he made it concrete. He wants to do a housing plan.
A housing plan, exactly.
And that's something that I've expressed at this board level.
We've all said that.
That we need a housing plan.
So you're okay with
that? So there's a deliverable. We know that it costs X dollars. We know that we really don't have the technical skills to do it here in-house. Much better to have technical assistance from outside. It's all very simple, straightforward. But a broad thing like, let's do transportation goals of sharing transportation ideas with neighboring communities. How are you going to document that? What is the deliverable? What specific transportation thing are we going to share? How does it benefit the town of Sherborn?
So we're all in agreement we're going to keep this very narrow, right?
Yeah,
but David, we're all supporting that housing.
Yeah, David has recommended this sharing best practices, but I don't know that that sounds like it's inconsistent in Paul's way of thinking. I don't know what you thought it was.
Well, there's when you look at that topic, they specify that you have to have like active membership in the Mass Dot group. I don't know. I can't remember the name of it. But you have to be involved in that group anyway. But no, that would be the deliverable. Would be being an active member in that group. I don't know how active we are in that right now.
So we have to send Ed to meetings, and that's going to be our compact.
How does that benefit the town of Sherborn?
Only other than that's the only way you learn what other communities are doing.
All right, the whole point of bringing the town into a compact with the Commonwealth isn't just to have philosophical discussions. It's to make life better for our residents. And that's why I think a pavement management plan, a capital buildings plan, a housing plan, these are discrete things that we can use to great advantage. But sharing transportation ideas with the region. I mean, we try to bus here.
I don't even think it's that, Paul. It talks about operational and maintaining, sharing best practices about technologies and operating and maintaining and managing the assets in the departments for which they are responsible. Participation in the Bay State Roads program is a demonstration of implementing this best practice. Maybe we just ask Ed to participate in the best, or whatever this is, the Bay State Roads program, and not make it the focus of this compact.
Do we know what that is?
Oh, if we think it's a good thing. Yeah, no, obviously, if we think it's a good thing. Right, it involves weeks of vacation in Hawaii for meetings. I don't know what it is.
I'll join.
I don't know. It
So-
says, yeah.
So we would look at housing and capital planning and pick up the fleet management, building management, pavement management, and that kind of technical assistance
And
under the
housing.
capital
Yeah.
planning.
Yeah.
And then infrastructure would feed into the housing discussions with technical
Yeah, I don't
assistance.
think we want a separate infrastructure.
Right,
We're not
right.
ready for that.
Right.
I mean, stormwater, it would be helpful to have some technical assistance on stormwater issues, but I don't know how we build that in, and we're not really, we've got something going on that, but we're not really ready to
Right.
commit, I don't think.
Well, the new permits haven't been issued.
Well, that's part of it too, right? We don't know what the standards are, what we have to do. Only that it's going to be a lot of stuff. So, all right, so do we have a consensus to give David some direction on this? Sounds like we do. All right.
Okay, great. So the next time it comes back, maybe it'll be in the form of a draft compact.
Yeah, so let's have a draft compact for the next meeting if we can, or at
Yes.
least whatever your proposal is. Okay.
Yes.
Is that how it works,
Thank
David?
you.
We draft the
No,
compact.
I think they do
Yeah,
because
that's
they
what-
all
right.
exactly
Looks
the
like.
same. But I'll talk to them to get
Yeah.
that we want to present a draft one.
Okay. It looks like they have an intern doing their contracts, their compacts. Okay. Good. Consideration of various appointments. Do we have anything to do on that, David?
Yeah, there are a couple of things to talk about. If you look at the appointments page that we had posted, there are a few appointments we can do. For example, Kelly McClintock reappoint to the Conservation Commission for a period of 3 years.
I'd be delighted to do that, but I didn't understand why it said June 18. There was a bunch of these that said June 18.
2018.
No, it says June 6/18.
Oh, that's the term?
Yeah.
I thought that meant that on June 18th we voted.
Oh, no,
these
no,
already.
it's June 2018. The term would end June 2018.
Okay.
Oh, I see what that
6/18.
means. Okay.
Yeah. You look at Chris Tolman, it's 6/16.
So, what I wanted to talk about was Chris Tolman has expressed interest in two areas. One under Bay Circuit Greenbelt Representative, and then down under Sherborn Open Space. We haven't had a lot of people express, but it just, I didn't know what the board's comfort level was in appointing somebody to two separate entities right
We
now.
had advice from the Collins Institute to not have the same people serve on all the committees. So that part of the analysis of the town was basically the same people did everything. It was like musical chairs. So to the extent that we could get outsiders involved, we should give preference to outsiders. The problem is we have no other applicants.
You have 9 vacancies.
So,
I don't think he's bumping anyone.
so yeah, I mean, if there was a horde of people lined up and fighting to get this position, I think we should give preference to the newcomer rather than have the same person have 2, 3, 4 different positions. But here, that's kind of irrelevant because there isn't anybody else. So I don't have a problem with putting him on a couple of committees, particularly where he might be the only one
Right.
committee that we've been trying to fill for the last year and a half.
Well, the same issue runs into under Marion Nutra under the Sherborn Open Space. She recently, I think it was today, expressed interest in the MAPC, Metropolitan Area
She's also on the planning board?
Council.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, the MAPC representative should be on the planning board. There's a direct connection there, so I'd prefer her to be on that.
so she would be up for two, being appointed to 2 different entities. Not tonight, but at some point.
Well, I think we should give her preference.
Not tonight. But at some point. But it just, I didn't know what the board's comfort level was in appointing somebody to two separate entities right now.
I
Yeah,
consider her
I mean,
application
I'd
came
be
in late.
interested in knowing a little more about her, background qualifications on that. I know she's on planning board. That's a pretty
So let's
significant position, and we've had really good folks in that. Not that she wouldn't be good, but
Can
we've
we
had a
hold
long
on-
string of very successful people in that position.
Yeah. Can we hold on open space appointments and try to get more in there?
Okay.
As opposed to appointing just two to an empty committee.
And on Concom, I think it's great, and I'm certainly in favor of reappointing Kelly McClintock because he's a very knowledgeable, experienced person in that area. But there has also been some, at least from the public, some push to get some turnover on that committee and get some new blood on that committee, and I would hope that we can try to do that. Now, and that's not to take anything away from Kelly. I think he should be reappointed.
So we would have Chris Tellman, Bay Circuit Greenbelt representative, for an appointment of 1 year till June 2016.
So moved. Or did you say you didn't want to do any appointments today?
No, I didn't say anything like that. No, I'm fine with that.
So
So you're moving on Chris Tolman?
yeah.
Second.
Okay. Does anybody know Chris Tolman?
Yes.
Okay.
A, he's
Good
a
candidate
good
for
guy,
this.
and B, I'm extremely grateful that he would be willing to come forward and volunteer, as I think the board is grateful for all volunteers who come forward.
And obviously somebody who's got some open space or conservation land type experience or interest, right? I mean, otherwise,
Interest, yeah.
Interest. Okay. All right. So we got a motion and second. All in favor? Okay.
I'd move Kelly McClintock.
Second. Okay, all in favor on Kelly McClintock on conservation 3-year term.
I'd move Craig Sherman.
It's a reappointment. Okay,
Reappointment to the
second
Farm
on
Pond
Craig
Advisory.
Sherman.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
On Public Safety Committee, the 2 resident appointments for 3-year terms, Arthur Fenno for a 3-year term, and Jim Campbell for a 3-year term till June 2018
I'll move the 2 of those.
And they stepped forward.
Second.
Okay.
to be reappointed.
Great,
Yeah.
good. All in favor of them? Thank you.
On recycling, I still want to hold on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question on that, which I raise all the time about whether or not there's any conflict between a contractor being on a committee.
That's why I'm holding on it, because under the new agreement that I had discussed with Ron Buckler is that he would act as a non-voting ex officio on that, and that would give up 1 extra seat.
Isn't there the state ethics statute would come into play with a town employee and a contract with the town?
How do you mean employee?
Well, a committee member is a town employee under the statute.
Oh, right, under the ethics statute.
Under the ethics statute, and a town employee is limited in the ability to contract with the town.
Right.
Now I don't think the contract is with the individual; it's with a company, but there's still some affiliation there.
Right, and I've been holding on these since I.
And I don't have any objection to the appointment, but I think we need to have clarity on what we're allowed to do and what's proper to do.
Right.
It certainly makes sense to do. I was on the recycling committee years ago when Hat Rain was on the committee, and an awful lot of the recycling comes off of their trucks. So their input and their knowledge, having them at least as ex officio, makes a lot of sense. There's still a lot of folks in town that don't drive.
Well, I wanted to make that a condition of the contract that they attend the recycling meetings and provide their expertise from that standpoint, as opposed to having them appointed as an ex officio.
Okay.
But what about Andrea Brennan and Carl Ludwig? Both excellent people. They put in.
You can go ahead and reappoint those now. I was just going to hold the whole group.
I would move those 2. They're
Second.
Okay.
incredible volunteers.
Okay, all in
there.
favor on Andrea Brennan and Carl Ludwig? Okay.
And
We're going to hold on open space, right?
Can I nominate Gino Carlucci to the Southwest
Second.
Area Planning Committee?
All in favor? Gino, Kay,
And Can I move Frank Hess to the Town Center Water System Options Committee?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Frank? Here we go.
We should mention that there's 5 vacancies, well, I guess 4 now, on that committee.
Are those real vacancies, David? Are those folks not interested in being reappointed, the ones who haven't stepped forward?
I noticed on their their agenda. Did they have a meeting tonight?
On water options, I think
yesterday.
last night.
Last time.
Was it last night?
Yeah.
That was basically their agenda, was to talk about who wanted to get reappointed. So
Okay.
I don't know how that one went, but
They had a presentation from a company about that does, I guess, like joint sewage or something like that.
No, but I think
and then they were going to discuss who wanted to.
Sean's point
Right,
was,
right, right,
was they
right,
were
right.
also going to
Stay with
who
it.
needed to be reappointed and wanted to stay on the committee.
Are you still our liaison to that committee? Are you going to any of those meetings? Or?
I have not been going to the meetings, no. I mean, I was the liaison when it first started.
I was going to some, and then as soon as it got kicked that we weren't bringing an article to last year,
That's what happened, yeah.
I saw that this is going to be another multi-year thing. So,
I mean, I'm following their communications. You probably are too. But.
right.
No, I haven't seen any of them.
Oh,
I guess
I'll
I
copy
need to
on it.
reach out
I'll
to them.
copy on it.
Yeah, please.
Okay, good. So that takes care of the appointments. David, any staff reports?
No. I think the treasurer wants to come in at some point, and also the finance director.
Okay.
But one thing on the vacancies I want to mention, there's the 495 Metro West partnership. That's Peter. It was Peter Caruso before. Apparently, since he's not a selectman anymore, he can't serve. The appointment is done by the partnership. So I'm looking into that because Peter's expressed interest in having that appointment remade. So I'll bring something back that clarifies what's going on with that.
And if
So you're not sure we can appoint him?
But we do not make the appointment.
What's that?
We do not make the appointment.
So
Yeah.
why do we even discuss it then if they're making the appointment?
One of the qualifications is that you have to be a selectman filling that seat. So when I
So we have to submit
confirm
something
that,
to them, and they didn't decide if they want the person or not.
right, when I confirm that, then I'll bring
That's
it
what I'm
back.
thinking. There's an empty
Mark,
seat.
I see an empty seat there.
He
right?
expressed interest.
I mean, that would be a great match
Well,
for
he's near
him.
495, so yeah.
Yeah.
His business
Yeah,
is
Marlboro's right on 495.
Yeah,
Yeah,
his business is
absolutely.
right out there. He's
Yeah.
already got all the
Yeah,
qualifications.
So if anyone's asked about that,
He's on 495 and he's a selectman. That
3 for 3.
maybe he's not here tonight.
I would like to leave Peter in that seat if Peter's willing to
If
do
it's
it.
possible.
We can.
if it's possible, that's what I was told. It's not possible, but I'll bring him back as soon as I have a confirmation on it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
All right, good. We have a warrant here for TA payroll. Do we have a motion to approve the warrant? Second, all in favor? Okay, and we have to set the next meeting date, which, David, I gave you a tentative date. I can't remember what I gave you.
It was August 12th or 13th, Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah,
I'm going to be out of town,
well, that may be,
taking my daughter to Arizona State University.
I think if we do the 12th, that's probably the best one. Everybody's got vacations and stuff in August.
I was going to say I'm on vacation on the 12th, but,
Oh, you are? Okay.
but I can be here if necessary for a quorum.
I don't think it's going to be a long meeting, is it, David? It's just in case something comes up. And
We already have a full. Yeah, we can't take any more items on there. That's
not large.
Yeah.
What do we have on that agenda?
I can't even remember. I just know that it's the full page.
Well, we were going to talk about possible need for short-term borrowing, right? That was going to be that night.
DSCTV.
Brush Hill thing's probably going to get.
Yes.
I mean, the TV thing we don't have to have in August. That's
Right.
Okay.
that's been going on forever, and
Right.
it's going to go on
Okay.
forever. And we can
Yeah.
get them in when
Yeah. Let me
it's a
send
late night. We can get them in.
Yeah. Let me send. I mean, as things come in, yeah, we'll bump and.
All right. So
Move.
send me an agenda on that. But can we say the 12th? Even sorry, Paul. I know it's.
Isn't that going?
No,
Don't we know that'll be a? No, we don't.
What's
Mark was able to do
He can do
most
Wednesday
Wednesdays
nights.
during the summer.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Right.
He can do Wednesday nights
Right.
during the summer. The problem here was we ended up having to switch
Right.
it. We did Thursday and we did Tuesday. So.
Do you want for the 12th?
Okay, we'll shoot for the 12th.
I'm just going to make a note that not everyone's attending on that, so that we'll keep in mind that there's no.
Yeah, I think we should try
Big
to
issues.
not to put big issues
Yeah.
on.
Okay.
Okay. All right, and now we have, where's my motion?
Okay, you skipped the selectmen's reports.
Was there something else? Oh, selectmen's reports, good. Are there selectmen's reports?
Just a
Mr.
quick,
Durancis.
just a quick item that, if you recall, we had a hard winter.
You had to bring that up.
I didn't hear him.
We had a hard winter,
Oh.
and the town has submitted requests for reimbursements to the United States for the declaration issued by President Obama of an emergency, and that would total, I think, about $51,000. Because that's only at 75% of the expenses for municipalities generally, and that the declaration of emergency didn't cover the entire state. The governor has submitted a proposed supplemental budget item for the surplus from the end of the fiscal year that just ended, for $25 million to be spread out amongst the cities and towns based on the Chapter 90 formula. That would mean an additional amount paid on top of the money from the United States, so that the money for Sherborn would be about $31,000 on top of the $50,000 that we are looking to get from the United States. So that would make a total of about $80,000 of money, and the indications are that the $25 million is being very well received on the part of the general court, so it's expected to be enacted. That would again bring, between those two things, Sherborn should get to $80,000.
That's great.
Good. I got another quick one. Shameless plug again for the playground rebuild the week of October 20th. The 20th, which is a Tuesday, to the 25th. We're going to be forming teams.
Is it going to be a barn raising like the original
Yes.
construction? Great.
More so than that. The contractor that we worked with is literally just doing the logistics, helping us do the logistics. It'll be my full-time job for 3 weeks, so please come by and
it is great fun.
lend a hand.
It is a wonderful project.
And we need a lot of volunteers to come out and just do whatever you can do.
It's great.
October 20th to the 25th.
I'm good at bringing beer.
I just had a brief one. I know that we're going to have it on an agenda, that the success, we talk about the private-public partnership, the success of the library building committee getting the $3.6 million grant, that for the town's contribution of $1 million, we're getting such an incredible project. It's really amazing. Kudos to Stacy Brandon and Jim Murphy and everyone on the committee. It's just an incredible result. So,
Here, here. I agree.
Yeah, I just have a short one too, and I'm probably a little behind the time, but it struck me late one evening recently driving through the center of town, which is usually a bleak experience at night. Those banners that the Chamber of Commerce put up, they really make the center of our town look nice. That was a great move. It's a real facelift. A little thing like that just has done a great
it's amazing
thing for the center of town. Yeah. Okay. I move that the Board of Selectmen enter into executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, or value of real property as it pertains to the Peace Abbey land swap pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Sections 21A, 6, and 7, and Suffolk Construction versus Division of Capital Asset Management. And further, as the Chair, I declare that the discussion of this item in an open meeting would be detrimental to the town's position. The Board will not return to a public session. I need a second and then a roll call vote.
Second.
Okay, having a second, we will now have a roll call vote, seconded by Mr. Yan. Mr. Durancis?
Mr. Durancis votes aye.
Mr. Yan?
Yes.
Mr. Colleen?
Yes.
And Mr. Jarmo, yes. Selectman Brandon is not present for tonight's meeting. Having passed by a vote of 4-0, the open session is now closed. We will not be returning to public session. We're now in executive session. Thank you.